Westpac accused of money laundering. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Still working through my stein of coffee when I noticed this article just appeared, and it's to do with Westpac and the potential for money laundering. I'll just move it here. So Westpac accused of 23 million breaches by the money laundering watchdog. Okay guys, 23 million breaches. Now remember, KPMG recommended the cash ban, which is implemented to address the black economy and reduce tax leakage and all the criminals, be reduced to $2,000 because the average Australian can't handle the responsibility of carrying around $10,000 cash. And having it in the banking system will address all those issues. So just remember that. Just remember that we've now, our House of Representatives have passed cash ban, a limitation on the cash transaction limit. We can only spend $10,000. Oh no, you can't actually, $9,999. If it's $10,000 with a business in cash, or a contract, or payments over time, you're done. Just think about that as we read this article about Westpac, one of the big four banks here in Australia. It's going to make all the problems go away because no criminals have ever used a bank before. So, financial intelligence agency Austrac has launched legal action against Westpac for large-scale breaches of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws, raising the prospect of hefty financial penalties against banking giant. So, I mean, here, this is also an interesting thing. When I was reporting on Cloud Token, that scam crypto wallet that was an Australian company, they have an ASIC registered company, and I was saying, where's all these legal requirements that they're meant to follow because they're an exchange? And none of it was there, and people who were investing it obviously didn't think to look for these type of requirements because we already have all these legislation and systems in place that completely negate the cash ban. So, yeah. Anyway, Austrac on Wednesday said it filed a lawsuit against the bank alleging serious and systematic non-compliance with laws that require banks to monitor the flows of money in and out of Australia. Austrac Chief Executive Nicole Rose said in Canberra the bank had failed to report over 19.5 million international funds transfer instructions to Austrac. Austrac alleged Westpac breached anti-money laundering laws 23 million times. Over nearly 5 years, these transactions were both in and out of Australia and amounted to over $11 billion, she said. I wonder how many of those are just normal transactions. But because we're in a, the Austrac needs to monitor and manage everything, so maybe Austrac isn't working. This is demonstrating how it's failing. So that's why they want the cash back. This results in a significant loss of intelligence to Austrac and our national security and law enforcement partners. Well, that's an interesting thing. You have to realize we're now in a different world. And often a really interesting method of analysis is looking at trading and futures and seeing what particular people are making, what shorts or what trades. An example would be, a terrorist may be planning to commit an act on a particular airline. So his friends or family or associates might expect that price of the airline to plummet and might make an investment or a CFD trade based on that. So using that intelligence, you could potentially identify a risk. It's one thing to consider. So, Austrac said in a statement the bank had failed to report more than 19.5 million international funds transaction instructions over nearly 5 years. It said late IFTIs from 4 corresponding banks represented more than 72% of all incoming IFTIs received by Westpac. It also said the bank had failed to pass on information about the source of funds to other banks. It kept inadequate records and did not carry out adequate customer due diligence and transactions to the Philippines and Southeast Asia. These AML-CTF laws are in place to protect Australia's financial system, businesses and community from criminal exploitation. Serious and systematic non-compliance leaves our financial system open to being exploited by criminals, Ms. Rose said. So, this is a breaking article, so that's all there is to it. It's just worth considering, isn't it? It certainly is worth considering. And here is a related article from another bank. Is it the same author? Yes, it is. Mr. Yeats is doing a good job here. And this is the Commonwealth Bank, and this was released November 19th. So, yesterday, CBA pleads guilty to criminal breaches. Of course, remember, guys, we need that cash ban to stop all the criminals. The cash ban will stop us. The corporate watchdog has signalled it will not shy away from taking criminal action against large corporations that break the law after the Commonwealth Bank pleads guilty to selling life insurance through unsolicited phone calls. At the Downing Centre in Sydney, the city's biggest bank on Tuesday pleaded guilty to 87 criminal charges relating to the hawking of life insurance in late 2014, delivering a win to the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. Remember, the banks are the good guys. Apparently. Yeah, I mean, just with all the cash ban issues, this is just someone sticking the knife and twisting it, isn't it? It really is. Just seems frustrating. The case against CBA is the first criminal matter brought against a major financial institution since the Hayne Royal Commission, though the Commission did not examine the specific matter. ASIC, which has been taking a more aggressive stance on misconduct since the Royal Commission, said CBA would be paying out $12 million in compensation to 30,000 customers who were unfairly sold insurance over the phone. ASIC Deputy Chairman Daniel Crennan, QC, said criminal actions against corporations had been rarely deployed in the past, but the case may be a signal that ASIC is more willing to go down this path. I remember I had a friend who was an insurance salesman. I said, why don't you just call people to build up your network and run events? And he said, you can't do that. So they're a small two-man operation is obeying the law, but CBA, the biggest bank in the country, isn't. Funny that, isn't it? Funny that. It's a criminal action against a wholly owned subsidiary of the largest bank in Australia, Mr. Cranigan told the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. It just demonstrates a willingness to take criminal action in circumstances where it's available under the legislation, and we think it's appropriate to do so. CBA's guilty plea comes after ASIC launched the action against the bank in October, focusing on calls made through a telemarketing firm working for CommInsure, Aegon Insights Australia. CBA broke the law because in the 87 calls, customers were not given the option of having mandatory information read out to them before the insurance cover was sold. The bank faces potential fines of up to $1.85 million over the affair, as well as the potential for further damages to its already tarnished reputation after a string of scandals in recent years. Penalties will be set later this month. CBA, which had self-reported the breaches to ASIC, acknowledged its guilty plea in an announcement to investors, saying it had stopped selling life insurance in this way at the end of 2014. Well, this is the problem when you contract out to another party. Looks like that's the issue. ASIC cited a previous report that found almost half of the accident protection insurance policies sold by CommInsure in 2012-2013 had been cancelled within 6 months of customers buying the policy. The regulator said this suggests customers may have felt pressured to buy the policy, then realised they did not want it or could not afford it. Meanwhile, ASIC also said a former Western Sydney National Australia branch manager, Matthew Ulwin, has been sentenced to 12 months intensive correction order, a type of sentence that can be served in the community. ASIC said Mr. Ulwin was sentenced for making false and misleading statements to the bank in relation to home loan applications. So we're having someone someone punished for the dodgy loans. So guys, 2 examples within 2 days of 2 of our banks making criminal breaches. And yet, we need a cash ban, because all of us plebs who are too dumb to walk around with $10,000 according to KPMG, can't handle it. We're all the criminals. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Are you surprised at all? Or are you so cynical as I am that it's just, what's ANZ going to come up with next? What do you reckon? Who'll be next? Which will be the next bank? Let me know in the comments, guys. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy my content and want to help me produce more, I have Patreon where you can make a small monthly donation. I also have Amazon and eBay referral links where I receive a commission when you make a purchase and it doesn't cost you a cent. It's a great way to help support the channel. And I also have PayPal and Ethereum if you want to make a direct donation. So take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.